Tom Miller sat in his small kitchen at 2 in the morning, staring at the pile of envelopes that seemed to grow bigger every day. The red stamps on most of them screamed, "Final Notice," in angry letters. His hands shook slightly as he picked up the electric bill. $347. Past due by 60 days. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked toward the hallway where his 8-year-old daughter Lucy was sleeping. Her bedroom door was slightly open, and he could hear her soft breathing. She had no idea how bad things had gotten. Tom made sure of that. 6 months ago, Tom had been a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company downtown. The pay was decent, the hours were regular, and Lucy had everything she needed. Then the company started laying people off. Tom thought his job was safe. He had good reviews and worked hard. But when the second round of cuts came, his name was on the list. "We're sorry, Tom," his boss had said that Friday afternoon. "You're a great employee, but we have to reduce costs. We'll give you a good reference." A good reference. Tom almost laughed thinking about it now. What good was a reference when no one was hiring? Tom opened his laptop and logged into his bank account. The numbers made his stomach hurt. Checking account, $43.16. Savings account, 0. Credit cards, maxed out. He had applied for unemployment benefits right after losing his job, but the money was barely enough to cover groceries. The rent on their small apartment was $800 a month. His car payment was $250. Car insurance, health insurance, Lucy's school supplies, food, utilities. The numbers never worked out right. Tom remembered the conversation with his landlord last week. Mr. Peterson was usually understanding, but even his patience had limits. "Tom, I like you and Lucy," Mr. Peterson had said, standing in the doorway of their apartment. "But I have bills too. You're 3 months behind now. I need to see some payment soon, or I'll have to start the eviction process." Eviction. The word made Tom feel sick. Where would they go? He had no family nearby. His parents had died in a car accident 5 years ago, and Lucy's mother had left when Lucy was just 2 years old. It was just him and Lucy against the world. Tom closed the laptop and walked to the refrigerator. He opened it and looked at the nearly empty shelves. Half a gallon of milk, some leftover pasta from 2 days ago, a few apples, and Lucy's favorite yogurt. He had bought the yogurt even though it was expensive because he wanted Lucy to have something she loved for breakfast. He made himself a cup of instant coffee with the last of the coffee grounds and sat back down at the kitchen table. Tomorrow was Saturday. Lucy would sleep late, and then they would spend the day together. She always asked if they could go to the park or the movies or out for ice cream. Tom always found free things to do. The park was free. The library was free. Walking around the neighborhood was free. But Lucy was getting older. She was starting to notice things. Last week, she had asked why they never went to the grocery store together anymore. "I like to shop when you're at school," Tom had told her. "It's faster that way." The truth was that he was embarrassed. He used food stamps now, and he didn't want Lucy to see the looks people gave him at the checkout line. He didn't want her to hear the comments. He didn't want her to feel ashamed of her father. Tom's phone buzzed. A text message from his friend Mike. "Hey man, how's the job search going? Want to grab a beer tomorrow night?" Tom stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Still looking. Can't do tomorrow. Taking care of Lucy." He didn't mention that he couldn't afford a beer. He didn't mention that he hadn't gone out with friends in months. Mike meant well, but he didn't understand. Mike had a good job, a wife, no kids. Mike's biggest worry was whether to get the new phone or wait for the next model. Tom deleted several other messages from friends without reading them. It was easier that way. He opened his laptop again and logged into the job search website. The same listings he had seen for weeks appeared on the screen. Administrative assistant. Customer service representative. Sales associate. He had applied for all of them. Some had sent rejection emails. Most had simply ignored his applications. His phone rang. Tom looked at the caller ID. It was his neighbor, Mrs. Garcia. She lived in the apartment next door with her teenage son. Why would she be calling at 2 in the morning? Hello. Tom answered quietly. Tom, I'm sorry to call so late, Mrs. Garcia said. But I saw your light on, and I thought you might still be awake. It's okay. What's going on? My cousin works at the downtown hospital. She mentioned something today that made me think of you. Tom sat up straighter. What kind of something? They need a night custodian. The job has been open for months. Nobody wants it because of the hours and the pay isn't great. But it's steady work, and they offer health insurance. Tom's heart started beating faster. What kind of hours? 11 at night until 7 in the morning. Monday through Friday. Night shift. Tom thought about Lucy. She would be asleep when he left for work and asleep when he got home. He would see her for a few hours after school and help her with homework before leaving for work. Tom. You still there? Yeah, I'm here. Do you know how much it pays? $15 an hour. It's not much, but like I said, there's health insurance. And my cousin says they're desperate. The last guy quit 3 months ago, and nobody wants the job. $15 an hour. Tom did the math quickly in his head. 40 hours a week. $600 a week before taxes. About $2,400 a month. It wasn't great money, but it was enough to pay rent and buy food and keep the lights on. Mrs. Garcia, do you think your cousin could put in a good word for me? I already asked her. She said to come in Monday morning and talk to the supervisor. His name is Robert Hayes. She'll tell him you're coming. Tom felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. Thank you, he said. Really. Thank you so much. We look out for each other in this building, Mrs. Garcia said. That's what neighbors do. After hanging up, Tom sat in his kitchen for another hour. He looked at the bills again, but they didn't seem quite so scary now. He thought about Lucy and how he could explain the new schedule to her. She was smart. She would understand that Daddy had to work at night so they could stay in their apartment. He also thought about the hospital. He had never worked as a custodian before. His last job had been in an office, wearing nice clothes and sitting at a computer all day. Cleaning hospitals would be different. Physical work. Hard work. But it was honest work, and right now, that was all that mattered. Tom looked at the clock. It was almost 4 in the morning. In a few hours, Lucy would wake up. They would have breakfast together, and maybe they would go to the park. He would tell her about the job opportunity. He would explain that things were going to get better. He picked up his phone and started typing a text to Mrs. Garcia, "Thank you again. I'll be at the hospital Monday morning." Then Tom turned off the lights and went to his bedroom. For the first time in months, he felt like he might actually be able to sleep. Tomorrow was a new day, and Monday might be the start of something better. As he lay in bed, Tom could hear Lucy stirring in her room. She sometimes had dreams that woke her up. He listened carefully, ready to go comfort her if she needed him. But after a few minutes, her breathing became steady again. "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart," Tom whispered into the darkness. "Daddy's going to fix this." He closed his eyes and tried to imagine himself in a hospital uniform, pushing a mop down empty hallways. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was a chance. And right now, a chance was all he needed. Monday morning came faster than Tom expected. He stood outside the downtown hospital at 8:30, wearing his best button-down shirt and khakis. The building was older than he remembered, with faded brick walls and narrow windows. Cars filled the parking lot as the morning shift arrived. Tom found the main entrance and walked to the information desk. A woman with gray hair and kind eyes looked up at him. "I'm here to see Robert Hayes about the custodian position," Tom said. "Third floor, room 312, she replied with a smile. "Take the elevator at the end of the hall." The elevator was slow and made strange noises as it climbed. Tom's hands were sweaty. He hadn't been this nervous for a job interview in years. When the doors opened, he walked down a long hallway until he found room 312. Robert Hayes turned out to be a tall man with a tired face and work boots that had seen better days. His office was small and cluttered with schedules, supply lists, and coffee cups. "You must be Tom," Robert said, standing up to shake hands. "Maria Garcia's neighbor." "Yes, sir. Thank you for meeting with me." Robert sat back down and pulled out a folder. "I'll be honest with you, Tom. This isn't an easy job. The hours are rough. You'll be working alone most of the time. The hospital can be a strange place at night." Tom nodded. "I understand. I really need this job, Mr. Hayes. I have a daughter to take care of." Robert looked at Tom for a long moment. "Maria told me about your situation. Single dad, right?" "Yes, sir. The pay is $15 an hour to start. Health insurance kicks in after 90 days. You'll be responsible for cleaning patient rooms, hallways, bathrooms, and common areas on floors 2 through 4. Night shift is 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., Monday through Friday." Tom felt his heart pounding. "When would I start?" "Tonight, if you want the job. I'll have Sandra train you for the first week. She's been here 20 years and knows everything about this place." Tom couldn't believe it. After months of rejection letters and unanswered applications, someone was actually offering him a job. "I want it," Tom said quickly. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes. You won't regret this." "I hope not. Be here at 10:30 tonight. Sandra will show you the ropes." Tom left the hospital feeling lighter than he had in months. He drove straight to Lucy's school to pick her up. She was waiting on the front steps with her backpack, talking to another girl about a science project. "Daddy." Lucy ran to the car and climbed into the back seat. "How was your day?" "Really good, sweetheart. Really good." That evening, Tom explained the new job to Lucy while they ate dinner. He had made her favorite meal, spaghetti with butter and cheese. It wasn't fancy, but Lucy always cleaned her plate. "So you'll work when I'm sleeping?" Lucy asked, twirling noodles around her fork. "That's right. I'll leave after you go to bed, and I'll be home before you wake up for school." Lucy thought about this. "Will you be tired all the time?" "Maybe at first. But I'll get used to it. And the important thing is that we can stay in our apartment, and you can keep going to your school." "Okay," Lucy said. "I think you'll be good at cleaning. You always make our apartment really clean." Tom smiled. "Thanks, kiddo." At 10:15 that night, Tom kissed Lucy goodnight and drove back to the hospital. The parking lot was nearly empty now. Only a few cars remained under the dim streetlights. Tom had never seen the hospital at night before. It looked different somehow. Bigger. More mysterious. Sandra was waiting for him at the staff entrance. She was a small woman with short brown hair and quick movements. Her uniform was perfectly clean, and she wore comfortable shoes that made no sound on the hospital floors. "You must be Tom," Sandra said. "Ready for the grand tour?" For the next hour, Sandra showed Tom every corner of floors 2, 3, and 4. She explained which rooms needed daily cleaning, which patients required special attention, and how to use all the equipment. Tom tried to remember everything, but there was so much information. "The most important thing," Sandra said as they stood in the supply closet, "is to be quiet. Some patients sleep lightly, and families sometimes stay overnight in the chairs. We don't want to wake anyone up. Tom nodded and followed Sandra to the first patient room. An elderly man was sleeping in the bed while a woman sat in a chair beside him. She looked up when they entered. "Hi Sandra," the woman whispered. "Hi Beth. This is Tom. He's training to take over the night shift." Beth smiled at Tom. "Nice to meet you. Your predecessor was wonderful. I hope you'll be just as kind." After they left the room, Tom asked Sandra what Beth had meant. "The last custodian was named Frank," Sandra explained. "He worked here for 15 years. Frank always took extra time to chat with patients who couldn't sleep. He brought warm blankets from the laundry for family members who were spending the night. Little things that made people feel better." "What happened to Frank?" "He retired last month. Moved to Florida to be near his grandchildren." Tom wondered if he could be like Frank. He had never thought of custodial work as something that could help people feel better. He had imagined it would just be cleaning and mopping. The rest of the night passed slowly. Sandra taught Tom how to properly clean patient rooms without disturbing anyone. She showed him the best way to mop floors so they would dry quickly and safely. She explained the different chemicals and when to use each one. By 6 in the morning, Tom's back was sore and his feet hurt. But he had made it through his first shift. Sandra seemed pleased with his work. "You did good tonight," she said as they put the equipment away. "See you tomorrow." Tom drove home as the sun was coming up. The city looked peaceful at this hour. Most people were still sleeping, getting ready to start their Monday. Tom felt like he was part of a secret world that existed while everyone else dreamed. Lucy was still asleep when he got home. Tom took a quick shower and fell into bed just as his alarm clock showed 7:30. He would sleep until 2 in the afternoon, spend time with Lucy when she got home from school, help her with homework, make dinner, and then go back to work. The first week was the hardest. Tom's body struggled to adjust to sleeping during the day. He felt tired all the time. The work was physically demanding in ways his office job had never been. His hands became rough from handling cleaning supplies. His legs ached from walking miles of hospital corridors every night. But something unexpected began to happen during his second week. Tom started to notice things that Sandra hadn't mentioned during training. He saw patients who couldn't sleep lying awake in their beds, staring at the ceiling. He noticed family members trying to get comfortable in chairs that were never designed for sleeping. He observed nurses working double shifts, looking exhausted but still caring for their patients. Tom began to understand what Sandra had meant about Frank. This job wasn't just about cleaning. It was about being present during people's most difficult moments. One night during his third week, Tom was cleaning the hallway on the third floor when he heard soft crying from one of the patient rooms. He stopped and listened. It sounded like an older woman. Tom quietly pushed his cart closer to the room. The door was open, and he could see an elderly Chinese woman sitting on the edge of her bed. She was wearing a hospital gown and looked confused and frightened. Tom knocked gently on the doorframe. The woman looked up at him with wet eyes. "Are you okay?" Tom asked softly. The woman said something in Chinese. Tom didn't understand the words, but he could tell she was upset. Tom remembered seeing a chart at the nursing station that listed interpreters for different languages. But it was 3 in the morning. The interpreters wouldn't be available until the day's shift started. Tom entered the room slowly, making sure not to frighten the woman. He sat down in the visitor's chair and spoke in a calm voice. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe. You're in the hospital." The woman continued to speak in Chinese, but her voice became less panicked. Tom stayed with her for 10 minutes, just sitting quietly and offering his presence. Eventually, a nurse came by to check on her. "This is Mrs. Chen," the nurse explained to Tom. "She has dementia and gets confused at night. She doesn't speak much English." "I was just trying to help," Tom said. "That was very kind of you. Family members aren't allowed to stay overnight unless it's an emergency," so she gets scared when she wakes up alone. After the nurse left, Tom thought about Mrs. Chen. He wondered if there was something more he could do to help her feel less frightened during her nighttime confusion. The next night, Tom brought a thermos of warm tea from home. When he checked on Mrs. Chen, she was awake again, looking worried and calling out in Chinese. Tom sat down with her and offered the tea. Mrs. Chen seemed surprised but accepted the cup gratefully. Tom didn't speak Chinese and Mrs. Chen didn't speak much English, but they found ways to communicate. Tom showed her pictures on his phone, photos of Lucy, their apartment, their cat Whiskers. Mrs. Chen smiled and pointed at Lucy's picture, then patted her heart. From that night forward, Tom made it part of his routine to check on Mrs. Chen. He learned that she had been a teacher in China before moving to America with her family. She had 3 children and 7 grandchildren. Her husband had died 2 years ago, and she lived with her eldest son now. Word about Tom's kindness began to spread among the night shift staff. Nurses mentioned how he had helped calm Mrs. Chen. They told each other about seeing him bring extra pillows to family members sleeping in waiting room chairs. Dr. Rodriguez, who worked frequent overnight shifts in the emergency room, began to look forward to seeing Tom during her rounds. He always had a friendly greeting and kept her workspace cleaner than any custodian before him. "You're different from the others," Dr. Rodriguez told Tom one night while she grabbed coffee from the break room. "Most people in your position just do their job and go home. You actually care about the people here." Tom wasn't sure how to respond. He had never thought of himself as particularly caring. He was just trying to be helpful. "I guess I understand what it's like to be scared and alone," Tom said finally. Dr. Rodriguez looked at him with interest. "You have kids?" "A daughter. 8 years old. Single parent?" Tom nodded. "That's tough. But it sounds like she's lucky to have a dad who cares so much about helping others." As Tom finished his shift that morning, he realized that something had changed. The job that nobody wanted was becoming something he actually enjoyed. For the first time in months, he wasn't just surviving. He was making a difference. 3 months had passed since Tom started working the night shift at the hospital. What began as a desperate attempt to pay bills had slowly transformed into something he never expected. Tom found himself looking forward to going to work each evening. His routine with Mrs. Chen had become a highlight of every shift. Tom brought her tea, showed her new pictures of Lucy, and sat with her when she felt confused and scared. Even though they shared few words in common, they had developed a friendship that transcended language barriers. Mrs. Chen's son David visited every Sunday afternoon. Tom had never met him because of their different schedules, but the nurses told him that David was a successful businessman who owned several restaurants in the city. Tom was simply happy that Mrs. Chen had family who cared about her. One Thursday night in December, Tom was cleaning near Mrs. Chen's room when he heard voices speaking in Chinese. He glanced inside and saw a well-dressed man in his 40s sitting beside Mrs. Chen's bed. The man was holding her hand and speaking softly to her. Mrs. Chen looked up and saw Tom in the doorway. Her face lit up with excitement. She began speaking rapidly in Chinese and pointing toward Tom. The man looked confused at first, then stood up and walked over. "Excuse me," the man said in perfect English. "Are you Tom?" Tom was surprised. "Yes, I'm Tom. You must be Mrs. Chen's son." "I'm David Chen." He extended his hand for a handshake. "My mother has been telling me about you for weeks. She says you take care of her at night." Tom felt embarrassed. "I just bring her some tea and sit with her sometimes. She gets scared when she wakes up alone." David's eyes became emotional. "You don't understand. My mother was a very proud woman before the dementia. She was a teacher, a leader in our community. This disease has taken so much from her. But when she talks about you, I see glimpses of who she used to be. She feels safe with you." Tom didn't know what to say. He looked at Mrs. Chen, who was smiling at both of them from her bed. I would like to do something for you, David continued. My mother says you have a young daughter. Lucy. She's 8. Would you be interested in some weekend work? I own several restaurants, and I always need reliable people for maintenance and deep cleaning. The pay is good, and you could bring your daughter with you during the day shifts. Tom's heart began racing. Extra income would solve so many problems. Are you serious? Completely serious. My mother has given you something precious, peace of mind during her most difficult hours. I want to return that kindness. That weekend, Tom brought Lucy with him to David's main restaurant downtown. It was a beautiful place with elegant decorations and a kitchen that sparkled. David showed Tom what needed to be done and introduced him to the staff. This is Tom and his daughter Lucy, David announced to the weekend crew. Tom will be helping with maintenance on weekends. Lucy was fascinated by the restaurant kitchen. The head chef, a kind woman named Maria, let Lucy help wash vegetables while Tom worked on repairs and cleaning tasks. Your daddy is a good man, Maria told Lucy. Mr. David told us how he takes care of his mother at the hospital. Lucy beamed with pride. My daddy helps sick people feel better. The weekend work at David's restaurants quickly became a regular thing. Tom earned an extra $400 every weekend, which made a huge difference in their monthly budget. But more importantly, Lucy got to spend time with Tom while he worked, and she loved learning about the restaurant business. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Tom's reputation continued to grow. He had developed relationships with many of the regular patients and their families. The Martinez family, whose teenage son was recovering from a car accident, appreciated how Tom always checked on them during the long nights. The elderly Mr. Johnson, who had been in the hospital for weeks with heart problems, looked forward to Tom's visits and their quiet conversations about baseball. Dr. Rodriguez had become a real friend. She often stopped to chat with Tom during her rounds, and they discovered they had similar backgrounds. Both were single parents working hard to provide for their children. Have you ever considered patient advocacy work? Dr. Rodriguez asked Tom one night in February. We have an opening in that department. Tom wasn't sure what patient advocacy involved. What do patient advocates do? They help patients and families navigate the hospital system. They solve problems, answer questions, connect people with resources they need. It requires someone who understands people and genuinely cares about helping them. That sounds like something I would like, Tom admitted. But I don't have any experience in healthcare. Tom, you've been doing patient advocacy work for months without realizing it. Every time you comfort Mrs. Chen, every time you help a worried family member, every time you go beyond your job description to make someone feel better, that's patient advocacy. Dr. Rodriguez explained that the position paid $22 an hour and worked regular daytime hours from Monday through Friday. Tom would be home with Lucy every evening and weekend. The department head is looking for someone with heart, not just credentials, Dr. Rodriguez continued. I've already spoken to her about you. She wants to meet you next week. Tom felt dizzy with excitement and nervousness. A day job with better pay that would let him be home with Lucy every night. It seemed too good to be true. The interview with Sarah Miller, the patient advocacy department head, went better than Tom had hoped. Sarah was impressed by the stories she had heard about Tom's interactions with patients and families. Robert Hayes told me about your work ethic, Sarah said. Dr. Rodriguez told me about your compassion. Several families have specifically mentioned how you've helped them during difficult times. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. Tom was offered the patient advocate position on the spot. His first day would be the following Monday. That weekend, Tom took Lucy out for ice cream to celebrate his new job. They sat in their favorite booth at the local ice cream shop, and Tom explained how their lives were about to change. So you'll be home for dinner every night? Lucy asked, her spoon loaded with chocolate ice cream. Every single night. And weekends too, except when I work at Mr. David's restaurants. Will you still see Mrs. Chen? Tom smiled. He loved how Lucy always thought about others. "I'll visit her during the day sometimes. And maybe we can visit her together on weekends." Lucy's eyes lit up. "I would like that. I want to meet your friend." Tom's last night as a custodian was bittersweet. He made his usual rounds, saying goodbye to the nurses and staff who had become like family to him. He spent extra time with Mrs. Chen, explaining that he would be working different hours but would still visit her. Mrs. Chen seemed to understand. She patted Tom's hand and spoke softly in Chinese. Even though Tom couldn't understand her words, he felt the warmth and gratitude in her voice. Sandra, who had trained Tom 6 months earlier, found him as he was finishing his final shift. "I'm going to miss having you on the night crew," Sandra said. "You brought something special to this job." "Thank you for everything you taught me," Tom replied. "I never thought cleaning floors could teach me so much about life." Tom's first day as a patient advocate felt like stepping into a new world. He wore a button-down shirt and tie instead of a custodian's uniform. He had an office with a desk and a computer. But most importantly, his job was to help people during some of the most stressful moments of their lives. His first case was helping an elderly man understand his insurance coverage for a surgery. Tom spent 2 hours on the phone with insurance companies, patiently working through paperwork and explanations until everything was resolved. "I don't know how to thank you," the man said when Tom delivered the good news. "I was so worried about the cost." "That's what I'm here for," Tom replied, and he meant it completely. Over the following months, Tom's life continued to improve in ways he had never imagined. David Chen offered him a management position at one of his restaurants, but Tom declined because he loved his hospital work. However, David continued to provide weekend work opportunities, and he had also quietly established a college fund for Lucy. "My mother speaks about Lucy like she's her own granddaughter," David explained when Tom tried to refuse the generous gift. "In Chinese culture, we take care of the children of people who have shown kindness to our elders." The families Tom had helped during his custodian days began referring their friends and neighbors to him for handyman work. Word spread about the honest, reliable man who had helped them during their hospital stays. Soon, Tom had a small but steady side business doing home repairs and maintenance. But the most important change was in Tom himself. He had discovered a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with money or prestige. Every day at work brought opportunities to solve problems, ease worries, and help people navigate difficult situations. One evening in late spring, Tom was tucking Lucy into bed when she looked up at him with serious eyes. "Daddy, I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "Why is that, sweetheart?" "Because you help people. Mrs. Rodriguez told me at the grocery store that you're the best patient advocate the hospital has ever had. She said you make sick people feel better just by caring about them." Tom felt tears forming in his eyes. "I learned how to do that because of you, Lucy. You taught me what it means to love someone so much that you'll do anything to take care of them. Even take a job that nobody else wanted." Tom laughed softly. "Especially take a job that nobody else wanted." As Tom turned off Lucy's bedroom light, he thought about how much their lives had changed. A year ago, he had been desperate and afraid, willing to take any job just to survive. Now he had meaningful work, financial stability, and a community of people who had become like family. The job nobody wanted had led him to discover who he really was. It had connected him with people who valued kindness over credentials, heart over resume experience. It had taught him that sometimes the scariest decisions lead to the most beautiful destinations. Tom walked to his bedroom, grateful for every difficult night that had brought him to this moment. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to help others, and Lucy would come home from school to find her father waiting with snacks and stories about his day. He had finally found where he belonged.